Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2020 SIGUCCS webinar series. My name is Lori Fox. I'm the chair of the executive committee of SIGUCCS, and I am your facilitator and host for our webinar today. Before I introduce our talented speakers, I'm going to run through a few things with you. The first one is our webinar reminders. By default, everyone is muted. And, oops, I don't know why it keeps going back there. Okay, the session is being recorded. It's going to be available on YouTube next week. Also, you can ask a question in the questions box. And if you have a microphone, you can raise your hand to be unmuted to use your microphone. So that I can be sure you can hear me, would you please either raise your hand or say hello to me? Thank you, Rachel. And Caitlin's here. Good. Okay, so next I want to give you the first in-person announcement of our first ever SIGUCCS virtual conference. We have planned a great afternoon, April 22nd from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You're going to see a lot of announcements coming out about that at the end of February, but I wanted to let you know the date so you could save it. The topic of the conference is going to be moving into a leadership role. So we have experts in 4 areas who are going to share their experience. Actually, our first presentation is going to be a panel of people describing their experience moving into their first leadership role. So we are very excited about the virtual conference, and I hope that you join us for part or all of that afternoon or morning, depending where you are. This weekend, in where I live, it was 8 degrees out when I got up on Sunday morning. So let me tell you how excited I am about going to San Diego. The call for proposals is open for the SIGUCCS annual conference that's happening this November in San Diego, California. If you go to the SIGUCCS website, you can find information about the call for proposals, which is due in March. We're also, Tom, yes. Tom said, submit early, submit often. Tom is one of our program chairs for 2020. The book club is continuing. This year, we are reading one book every other month, and that pace is hopefully helping us all stay on track with our reading. Our March book is Radical Candor by Kim Scott. We will discuss the book in Slack as usual, and there will be a hangout scheduled where we get together with GoToMeeting so we can have a video chat and talk about the book. If the March book doesn't interest you, maybe May is more to your liking, and that is 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. We're looking forward to all of our books this year. It's not too early to start thinking about nominating people for various SIGUCCS awards. We have the Penny Crane Award for Distinguished Service and our Hall of Fame awards. Also, you may have seen in your email or on our social media channels yesterday that the SIGUCCS Communication Awards season is upon us. Nominations are not due until June 3rd, but you do have a little bit of work to do to get together your materials to submit to the awards. I have submitted things to Communication Awards, and I won. I'm looking at my sign. I won a Award of Excellence one year for my online self-help guides. One of the things that I think is so valuable about the Communication Awards is win or lose, the people who evaluate your submission will give you feedback, and that feedback is really valuable. We have several upcoming webinars scheduled. You can see the list here and on our website. We generally stick to a Thursday schedule, either at 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern. And like I said, those are all available on our website to see what's coming up. And I want to remind you that your membership in SIGUCCS, which is only $25, has a lot of great benefits. Of course, the biggest benefit is a conference discount. You also can get pre-conference seminar discounts, access to the ACM digital library. And this year is an election year. The entire executive committee is up for election. And in order to participate in SIGUCCS elections, your membership should be current. I believe it's by March 15th. And lastly, you probably are connected with us already, but I want to remind you that there are several ways to stay connected with us. Of course, we have the email listserv, our Facebook community, and Twitter account. We also have an active Slack community. The most active channels are book club, conference, productivity, and this great weekly challenge channel that we have where Mo Nishiyama shares with us challenges to think about aspects of our careers. So that's it for me. I'm going to end my slideshow here. And I'm going to turn it over to our panelists, to our presenters from Texas Women's University. Corin, let me know, did you get control?
Let me look. I see. Does it allow me to choose which screen?
It does. Under the show button, there is a menu. So if you stop showing, and then under the show button, there's a menu where you can pick what app you would like to share.
Okay, is it showing? Great.
There it is. Okay, so I'm going to hide my webcam and mute myself, but I'm available. I believe these presenters are happy to have me pop in with questions. So if you have a question for the team, please go ahead and type those in the question box. And with that, I will turn it over to my friends from Texas Women's University.
Thank you, Lori. So I'm going to go ahead and let us introduce ourselves. I am Corinne Walker from Texas Women's University, and I am at the Denton campus. Also joining us on a very, shall we say, ghosted way is Heather Davis, who she said she's going to keep quiet because she's been dealing with a cough. So she wasn't able to be at the conference with us, but she's very much a part of what's happening. And then Tamika, take it away.
Hello, my name is Tamika Nolan. I'm on the Dallas, Texas campus.
Hi, I'm Iris Stu. I'm working from the Houston campus for Texas Women's University.
So for any of you that weren't able to be at our session in November in New Orleans, we did talk about this topic, and yet we all have a slightly different slant. Texas Women's University, the main campus is here in Denton, and the Dallas and Houston centers are both at medical centers, and they have, what are we at, 1,500 to 2,000 students on those campuses, and we have a total population of about 16,000, give or take what's going on this semester. So Denton campus is almost 300 acres, and Dallas and Houston are each one building. So it definitely changes how things look to us. We have this common issue where we have new employees and we want them to be happy that they're here. I will go ahead and tell you, I'm a two-time alum of TWU. I've been here quite a while. We won't say any numbers, but it's a big one. And so I'm really excited to be here, a part of TWU, and I want other people to be excited to be a part of TWU. And yet what we realized was, just from the technology side of the world, that people were being hired and it was really challenging for them to get settled in. Sometimes they were the only office person in their area, or they were in a position in their area where they didn't have like a colleague similar to help them get acclimated. And so it was very painful for them to continually call the service desk and figure out how to get settled. And I know probably some of you deal with those issues as well. We've all been the new employee. We all remember when new employees were hired and realizing, oh, I got to make sure and tell them this and tell them that and tell them something else. Different areas here at TWU, and probably where you are, have different kinds of checklists depending on what they'll need to do and the different types of duties they may have. And so again, before it was somebody hires you and good luck. And when we become aware of something we can assist with, we would, but we were counting on your department to get you settled in. And sometimes that worked better than others. We definitely had situations where I just had somebody tell me recently that on our phones, there's a microphone light, and that's so that you can use the speakerphone. Well, they thought that they should be sure that that microphone was turned off the rest of the time. Otherwise, people could be listening in. And this is somebody that's been here a long time. And I said, oh, that's just not true. So, but somebody else had told them that. So they believed it and they ran around turning microphone lights off. And I said, wow, let me save you a little trouble. And sometimes they would be here a day, a week, a month, trying to get settled in, getting all their accounts activated, figuring out even which accounts they needed. And until they got all settled in with their accounts, they couldn't email anybody. They couldn't send or receive. They couldn't make long distance phone calls. They weren't in directories maybe where people could reach them. It was a hot mess. And so it depended on what area you were in and how well they got everything going, depended on how well all these accounts got set up. Then we decided, hey, we need to do something. So we decided to have a monthly workshop. And it was pretty much anybody that had been hired at any point. You know, we would say, here's the workshop coming up. You can come to this and we'll go over some things. And their supervisor would be notified. And so we always had people show up and we went over generic topics that we felt like would be applicable to the audience. And that lasted maybe an hour. And then the second hour, they could work on things, stay and ask us questions, ask about specific things they needed. And that was working okay. We had to deal with room reservations. Fortunately, we know how to bribe our friends in university scheduling. And we would use a webcam and connect the campuses, just kind of like we're doing this meeting now. The one big difference was, again, Dallas and Houston campuses are so different that they didn't have people being hired all the time. So really, the pressure was here in Denton. And so pretty much there were always people showing up in Denton, but it was very unlikely that Dallas or Houston really needed to be connected. So Tamika and Iris had to set aside that time just in case, but 99% of the time, that just wasn't an issue for them. And so it kind of wasn't the best use of our resources, and everybody didn't get what they needed. And if you arrived, we only had this workshop once a month. So if you came, you know, just a week after we had it, you had to wait until the next month for the next workshop. So that wasn't real good either. So through a lot of thinking and looking at the options available to us, we have SQL reports. And so the SQL report pulls data from our Oracle system, which is where all of our HR and financial records are, to show who's been hired, what area they were hired in, who their supervisor is, and their start date, because sometimes they show up in the report before they are actually here, And sometimes it's after they're here. We're still working out some of those wrinkles. And so as soon as their portal account was set up, which is basically once all your HR paperwork has been processed, you can set up a portal account. And then we would start emailing, and we would email the supervisor and say, hey, we're really thrilled you've hired this person, and we're going to email them and offer to meet with them. And so we would email the new person and say, hey, we're really glad you're here, and here's some information that might be useful. Now, the important thing was they got it from the person on their campus. So Iris emails the Houston people, and Tamika emails the Dallas people, and I email the Denton people. And so in Iris and Tamika's case, there's a really good chance that whoever's new has already met them because they're all in one building. In the Denton situation, even though we have so many buildings and so many people and all that, there's really a good chance that their supervisor knows who I am, and their supervisor will be like, hey, Corinne's going to email you, and you need to talk to her because, you know, she'll help you out. So we kind of have that going on. In Dallas and Houston as well, they try to talk to every new person that gets hired. Again, it's a much smaller campus, smaller amount of faculty and staff and students. So they try to talk to everybody. If you're a security guard or a housekeeper, they're going to check in on you. Here in Denton, as much as I would love to do that, there's just not enough of me to do that. So I usually target staff that are in office positions and people above that level. So I don't even try to contact faculty because there are special faculty orientation and things like that for faculty. So we start this trail of emails, and some people respond, some people don't, but no matter what, we email them. Originally, we started with one email a week. We were trying not to inundate people or overwhelm them. We quickly found out that when people are new, that's really kind of when they have time to be figuring all this out, and they're trying to get everything going. And we've had a number of instances where people have that first email and say, hey, today's my first day. Can you come over today? And if my schedule or our schedule will allow it, we will go meet with them. But you want that time to be productive. So we had upped it to one email a day unless that first email arrived and they said, can you come right now? And so I would send them all the emails and say, all right, we're going to go over these emails when I get there. And so here's some examples, and I will even tell you, we did not change these from what we showed you in November, but these have already changed since then. There are things, as you all know, in the world of technology that come and go. We're not offering that service anymore, or we don't want to present it the same way, or we need to give different parameters about a tool or a service. And so they're generally still this information, but we've taken a few things out or modified a few things. For example, our information security training is now handled in a different system. So we had to modify that information. And the first email you see there, the far left, is all about, hey, it's great that you're here, and I'm on this campus with you, and I'm happy to meet with you. If you want to meet, let me know some dates and times. Some people walk in and they're in meetings, and some people walk in saying, I'm bored, can you come talk to me? And then we always give them the information to the service desk because that is their first point of contact for everything. And that's another thing we try to impress upon them when they're new. Don't just start calling around and your new coworker says, well, call this person, they know everything. Just call the service desk. That's where we need to direct people. The second email is about getting access to accounts they likely need. Like everybody's got to do a time card. And most likely, if we're contacting them, they're going to need to do it in Oracle. Some people need to do it in another system, but we talk about that. We talk to them about basic training they're going to need. There are some accounts you can't get set up until you've done FERPA training. So we go ahead and tell them, go ahead and be working on this. And then the third email you see here is about files and where files are stored. And so we try to go ahead and talk to them about, these are some of your options. And we always encourage people, of course, you need to talk to your department about what their process is, but know that these are the options available. The fourth email they get about work has changed is about some of the new things that are available to them. You don't walk into an office anymore and have an IBM Selectrix sitting on a desk and you're going to be typing. Now you can use Google to collaborate with your colleagues, or you can do web conferencing like we're doing today. And there's different ways to work than there were just even a few years ago. So we try to showcase these are the tools available to you here at TWU, because their colleague may not know, their colleague may not tell them. And then the payroll email, again, we had originally planned to send it towards the end of the month, but what we were finding was if they hadn't set up that account at the beginning of the month or when they first got hired, like we suggested, we wanted to go ahead and nudge them like, no, really, you need to get this account set up so you can be entering your time card and have that process happening. Or if they had some reason they wouldn't be here to handle that, they need to get it addressed. And so then when we go meet with them, we have a checklist. And again, I'll tell you, this has already changed since we were there in November. There were a few things we realized, oh, we didn't realize nobody was talking to you about this, or no, this wasn't set up automatically. And so we've added that to our checklist. And so we sit down with this checklist, we ask them to pull up those emails we've sent them and say, all right, you know, what kind of questions do you have? Have you been able to do this? Let's go ahead and log in. One thing we found kind of by accident was we had people logging in to do their time card, and in certain situations they were receiving an error. And so the first time it happened, we figured out who to call. So now routinely I say, just go ahead and log in and let's make sure you don't get that error, because if there is, we need to go ahead and get that reported while I'm sitting here and get that process underway. And we have them log into stuff and make sure they can get in. Not just did you get an email saying your account was ready, but go ahead and log in. And even things like I showed up at one person's desk and they had only been here a little while, but they had gotten their long distance code and they had put it on a little sticky note and put it on their monitor. I said, okay, that's not okay. That should never be visible. It should never be shared. Like just basic security protocol that, you know, I don't know, maybe everybody in their area was very honorable if wouldn't have used their code, but I also go to new employee orientation and I talk to them. If anything happens with your logon credentials, be it long distance or any account you have, you did it, because those credentials should never be shared. So protect yourself and be sure not to have it visible. And I've even gotten, some people are very sly. I've even just casually picked up their tape dispenser or their stapler and made sure. I've seen people have it taped on the bottom. I'm like, okay, this is a problem. Yeah, we're laughing, but it's true.
Corin, I unmuted myself because I have a question about the emails. Do you get email overload issues ever? I mean, it's a lot of emails, but do people start, you know, emailing you back or?
No, usually they are thrilled.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's why we started with once a week. But when they're new, it's like they're so hungry for this information. And, you know, some of them never respond. Okay, I still sent it to you. And they might use it if they need it. But we have had an overwhelmingly positive response. And we've also kind of used this as a conversation point with the new person as well as their department to say, was this documented in some procedures somewhere? Because if not, this is a good time to start, so that we're hoping in the future we move to a point where, okay, let's say Lori is our new employee and we know Lori's coming to work for us in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. We can go ahead and start requesting these accounts. So when Lori gets here, the first day, we can start working with her and she can be up to speed instead of literally, sometimes people are sitting around going, well, they can't show me what to do because I don't have any access to any system.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, so great question. And I even put, this is kind of funny here, meetings can be 30 minutes to 2 hours. I have gone and we've covered, their department covered everything. Everything was working great. Life is great. They're just glad I stopped by. And, you know, if they've got dark chocolate, I'm really glad I stopped by. But I've had some people who we've hit this bump and that bump, and this account was messed up, and they ask about this, but they never got a response. And I have literally had situations where I was at their desk, well, about 2 hours. We've just had a great time getting to know each other. And usually in between phone calls and stuff, you know, I make sure they know all the great places to eat in the area and all the fun things to do on campus. And, you know, I can usually find a way to pass the time. And opportunities. So again, we have found some departments have checklists, and we have really tried to tell them how thrilled we are and how we wish other departments would follow suit. We've even asked them to share that with us so we could share it with others. We are seeing a movement in some of our, like we have the College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Nursing, and we've seen some of them bring all their administrative staff together and work together to build these processes and procedures across the college, because they run the same reports. They have to turn in the same information. And so we've seen a lot of uniformity kind of follow, sometimes directly as a result of what we've done, sometimes indirectly, sometimes they were working independently. It just kind of dovetails together very nicely. Some of them have business processes documented, some don't. We had a new person come in, I won't even name the area, and she had come from a situation where they were very digital minded, paperless, and the department she came into wasn't. And when I met with her, she said, "What is going on? They use paper here. I don't understand." And I said, "You and I are going to be good friends, I can tell." And so she was very curious, like, what can we do and what tools are available? And so we've become very good friends with her. I happen to know she likes Twix, and I make sure and send her some Twix every once in a while, because she's taken that department leaps and bounds down the road. And it's a department where the bulk of her staff spends a great deal of time out of the office. So having things digital and paperless is to everybody's advantage. And some people already know, like we know that Lori is going to need these types of accounts and this type of access on those accounts, because this is what that position does. Some areas are very fine-tuned on that. And so we've really tried to encourage that, and we've used that as examples to other areas. And we found Heather is, again, she's not saying much because she doesn't want to cough, but Heather is probably the most number nerdy person I think I've ever met. And she chews numbers for breakfast pretty much. And so Heather did all this statistical analysis and all these reports, and she found out that the tickets to the service desk for these new people dropped significantly when we started doing this. And so we're seeing that it's having a positive impact. People aren't feeling lost and helpless, like I'm here and nobody cares. Our campus also has a enterprise-wide license to LinkedIn Learning. I might be a professed junkie, and if you watch some of the onboarding courses on there, you see all the stats about when somebody isn't onboarded well, they're more likely not to be a happy employee and to leave. So, you know, we want them to fit in well here and to be comfortable. By the nature of our positions, we like to help people, we like to connect with people. And in my case, for me, it's very personal because I'm a two-time alum. So I'm really thrilled you're here helping other students like people helped me.
So,
And
I'm going to interrupt you again.
Yeah.
I have two questions. Heather has been adding a few things in the chat. She said
Great.
that originally she was concerned about the workload, but it's ended up being manageable. So I think that that's a good contribution. And then your checklists that you find at other departments, Do you ever get fragmentation? Like, are the departments giving conflicting information, or are you able to kind of nip that in the bud when you see the
No,
checklist?
the departments who have it are usually so on top of their game. Like, I'll give you an example, and you can all relate to this. Like, financial aid, let's face it, you talk about state and federal regulations, that place runs like a well-oiled machine. And I promise you, when I went to meet with somebody down there, like the first time, she showed me, she goes, oh, we've already done this. And I was like, well, it was great to meet you. And I'm glad I could like come down here and say hello, but y'all are so far ahead of us. I mean, it was incredible. And they had because they have to show her this is the proper procedure to do and how to do it. And so we have found misinformation, like I was telling you about, like the microphone lights on. So that means Telcom is recording us. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. And I've had departments say, well, we've just had such struggles gathering student emails, and sometimes we get bounce backs. I'm like, you can find their university issued email here. And they're like, oh, we didn't know every student had an email. And I'm like, yes, they do. So we've had some conversations, but if they've had a checklist, they're usually impressive checklist with very thorough details about how stuff is to be done. And we have applauded them and shared with other departments, hey, maybe you ought to talk to these people because they really are on top of their game. The next steps, again, like I said, and I'll just tell you, Heather's the one that dreams all this stuff up. She's like the ideas person, like, what if we could do this? And what if I'm like, I really do not know how she thinks of that stuff, but she does. So great. And she's like, what would be better is if as soon as they know they're hiring somebody, we've done the interview, we've selected the candidate, we know Sally's secretary is going to come. Let's go ahead and start getting things in order. If it's a new position, let's go ahead and get a computer ordered or a phone line ordered or whatever it is. Eventually, part of what we know is coming here at TWU is role-based access. So generally, if you're a business manager, you need these accounts. Our student system is colleague, and you may need access to just look at the hold screen or look at a schedule, or you might need access to put holds on and remove holds. And again, that should pretty much be able to be determined by position so that it's more automated. And as soon as somebody's hired on, we can start teaching you how to do what you need to do for your role. This is a picture of our campus. If you have not been here, I encourage you to come. It's really as beautiful as that picture and then some. The big picture is the Denton campus, of course. It's about almost 300 acres. It is absolutely gorgeous. The buildings are gorgeous. We have new buildings that are gorgeous. It's just an incredible place. On your upper right is our Houston campus there in the MD Anderson Medical Center. That is a magnificent place to go see just because you're in the heart of medical happenings there. They have a famous cancer center and other things. And then in your lower right is the Dallas campus, which I'm not kidding you, is like what, 2 or 3 doors down from Parkland Hospital, like the Parkland Hospital. There are other hospitals in that area, and there are other universities that have a presence both in Houston and in Dallas. So they are at the epicenter of like where our students need to be if they're studying nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, which if you don't know anything about TWU, we are among the top 10 schools in the nation for anything health related. We do have other things. I do not have a scientific bone in my body. I have a degree in education and family studies from here at TWU. We have a School of the Arts. We have other things, but Iris and Tamika, you've been letting me chat. So before we go on, is there anything you would like to add?
Our campus is located in the Texas Medical Center. which is the world's largest medical center. So we are surrounded by hospitals, institutions, and we're just one commuter campus. And since we're small, we also have advantage of meeting almost everyone like face to face. We have opportunity to meet staff when they come in. And sometimes when we have a new staff, when they just started and the department will send them to us, ask us, what do we need to do to get started, to get the new staff settled, so we can start right from there. That I think meeting with them from the very beginning is also a great opportunity to build relationship with them. So one, you can also help them to, our focus is to look at the basic technology, set up the needs, the resources available, and tell them where to get assistance when they need help. So we try to centralize our service desk. So we always tell people you need to call the service desk, and they're not physically located on our campus, but they are just a phone call away, or you can email them to get assistance so they know where to get support, assistance. Yeah.
And only one thing I'll add is the process is so popular. Like Corinne said before, we have supervisors saying, hey, get in contact with my new employee when they come in. So it is such a great success on each campus.
Yes, I will tell you, we are very popular. And I don't know. I think only the internal people saw it. One of the things that, I was saying, Dallas and Houston are all in one building. So they do have a very tight-knit community. And if you do come to Dallas or Houston to visit, you need to make sure it's on a day that they're having some kind of party, because they have fabulous parties on those campuses. They just recently had the International Festival at the Houston campus, and every year Iris sets up a booth about China and makes Chinese food for the people. So, like, seriously, you want to go visit those campuses. As I was mentioning, we do go to new employee orientation. Now, one thing to note that we have discovered, we knew that the Dallas new employees were told, you need to drive up to Denton, and every other Tuesday, they have an all-day new employee orientation. And I am there at 1 o'clock right after lunch, because nobody's ever fallen asleep when I'm talking. And so I try to liven things up a little bit. And what we found quite by accident is that we are not offering that same service at the Houston campus. HR had tried to condense everything, put it in a format where people could read it. And again, because the Dallas and Houston campuses are smaller, everybody wears a lot of hats. Well, Iris also serves on staff council here. And so Iris and the staff council crew are working on how we can connect, either like this through a webcam and some kind of video conference, web conferencing to the Denton campus when those new employee orientations are happening, so they can also be part, or to present in some way so that basically the Houston employees have the same experience and get that same level of treatment. And what's in it for us? There's always a catch, right? Yeah, we were initially concerned. Again, like Heather pointed out, the workload's been manageable, but again, I am limited in who I even offer to meet with. You may not be able to tell, I wish I could meet with everybody. I would love to just sit and talk to people, and we're so glad you're here, and let's answer your questions. There's just not enough of me. So we do have a service catalog, knowledge base. We have an excellent service desk. There's lots of ways for people to get information. So we try to make everything as user-friendly as we can. What we've seen out of this, though, is when we can meet with people head on, or even just provide the emails with the information head on, that eliminates some of the confusion, misinformation right up front. Like, they got it from us, this is how it is. And I've had people say, well, somebody told me this storage is unlimited. And I'm like, no, it's not. Here's the article that tells you it's limited. So let's talk about where you're storing things and why. It's allowed us to meet people and develop relationships, which is win-win for everybody. They start to feel connected to the campus and to people around them. They feel like they've got a friend in technology, and especially when you're working with adults, if you look at anything about adult learning population, nobody wants to feel stupid. Nobody wants to say, I don't know how to do that. I've never used Google before. I don't know. And when you're new, everything is an unknown. Like, why would you know how to use Oracle or Colleague because you haven't used that other places? So we try to take out the, oh, you don't know, we're going to tell you. One thing, I do my very best to never use the word help. I will use the word assistance or information or questions or concerns. I try not to use the word problem to keep things very positive, focused, and moving in the right direction. We want to make sure you have the information you need. That's a little bit more delicate way of saying you have no clue because you've never used this, so I'm going to fill you in. We want to come alongside of them. We also want them to feel like they can read information and learn. Like, you don't have to wait until one of us is sitting there to explain things to you. We also try to show them this is how it's done. You look at the service catalog, knowledge base, try to Google it. If all else fails, then you contact the service desk, you get a ticket in. It may get escalated to our team or another team, but let's try some things first. And then we also help them with Google Drive file and stream. That is something they can install. Most people don't have administrative rights, but our tech team has put this on our software center. And so we work with them to get Google Drive file stream installed and talk to them about how that works because we're a Google school. If there are issues, we assist them with reporting it right then. Like, we're going to model what you do. And I will just tell you, Iris and Tamika and Heather are all way more techie than me. You don't want me fixing something that's just not going to end well. So I'm very good at, let's call the service desk or let's log on to the service center and submit a ticket online and make sure they know how to do that as well. And then we make sure they're connected to the resources. Hey, just because you're not using Google Drive as a part of your job, you know, like our HR department, there's things they, you know, Google is FERPA compliant, but not HIPAA compliant. There may be things that are too sensitive, but you may be working on a committee or some project where you are using Google Drive. So I want to make sure you're familiar with it and know where you can get resources about it. And we also get a flavor of where they are on technology. Are you like, you know, mopping the floor with us, or are you like, what's a mouse? And we've seen both ends of the spectrum. We hear what kind of questions they have. It's been a really long time since I was new. Again, it is a double-digit number. And so it's been a long time since I was new and didn't know all the stuff I know just routinely. And so we find out, like, what information do we need to provide? Is there something else we need to put in those emails or put in our knowledge base or put out some other way so people know this? And we learn which departments are on top of their game and which ones need some assistance. These are the stats that we showed in November. And so you see this drop in tickets. So they're getting the information they need. They're getting on with what they need to do. They're not waiting on us for every little thing and trying to figure out what they don't know.
Corin?
Yeah.
I have a question from one of the listeners. Approximately how many staff perform the visits? Is it 3 or 4?
You're looking at them.
3.
The 3 of us.
And do you know
if
how?
I'm out, Heather will step in Denton.
Okay. Can you estimate how many people are onboarded each month?
It's totally dependent on if they want to see us.
Why wouldn't
really,
they want to see?
a lot of people do not respond to the emails. But if they do, then we go see them.
Okay.
And again, it depends on, obviously, like August, September, and January are big hiring times because fall and spring semester seems to be a big shift. And that's even non-faculty positions.
Okay.
But sometimes positions are created or suddenly vacancies happen. I mean, I'll be honest, on kind of a sad note, we have lost 4 faculty or staff members since the start of school this year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, somebody dies and they weren't expecting to have to fill that. And so then we're really in some delicate shoes, but that's really when the department needs us to step in and be supportive. Sometimes people have left suddenly for various reasons, and we try to delicately walk in there. What can we do to support you in this transition?
Yeah,
Right.
we from our campus, since we're small, we don't have a lot of, turnover or hiring all the time. So it's not much, like maybe several a month, and not that's really manageable. And when I go to meet with them, I'm meeting with everyone who respond to my emails, including faculty. So sometimes they really enjoy or value our visit. They said that's great. After the visit, they said, okay, thank you so much. Now they know how to get support and where to find information.
And technology is not a scary thing. Some people are still technophobic and they see us and they're like, okay, it can't be that bad. And we usually have several a month here. Again, I don't even try to cover all the faculty. I do not cover certain, like housekeepers and people that really don't do computers. I don't even try to reach out to them. I wish I could. I wish there was enough of me to do that, but I don't even begin to touch that. Yeah. Lessons learned, we've kind of touched on this. We realized that there were problems. We didn't even realize how big the problem was until we started doing some of this. We really try to get down to the root cause. Like, is somebody spreading bad information? Is somebody totally not on board? Is somebody not processing some paperwork, which is slowing everything down? Because a lot of things are a domino process. It has to be for legal reasons or security reasons or whatever. And where can we alleviate some of these pain points? And one of the things we found, again, being an alum, we found out if you had ever applied to be a student here, or you had been a student here, or your name changed, oh goodness, what a was. And so we found out we need to get this process worked out so that these people aren't, because they were even in a worse situation than just your regular new employee, because then their name wasn't right or their login wouldn't work, and it was a lot of hoops. So I have talked pretty much the whole time, and I'm going to pause in case there are questions. I'm glad, Lori, that you've stepped in a few times and just asked.
Good, because I have one
I'm
more.
not seeing it. Great.
How do you prepare your service desk to handle questions? And how frequently does the service desk escalate tickets to your team?
Ooh. And again, I know Heather doesn't want to say a lot. Heather's also the service desk manager. Fortunately, we have really brilliant people on the service desk. We have a really good relationship with them. And something our team has tried to do with the service desk, as well as all the other different teams within technology, is to build a relationship that we want to showcase their work. Like, you're the one answering the phone calls or installing the equipment or researching and deciding which equipment to install or whatever. What do you want us to communicate to end users about this? What do you want us to highlight? What do you want us to guide them away from? And so we've worked to build that communication with them. So when we go work with them, we know how to direct that conversation. For example, we have Apple TV in a lot of our classrooms. And one thing the tech told me was, this is basically for mirroring their devices. We do not want them logging onto their Netflix account in here and all that. So, We didn't go, hey, isn't this cool? You could log into Netflix. We're like, okay, really, this is here for this purpose.
Right.
So our tech was freed up to be the tech, and we could be the communication people.
Mhm.
And our service desk is really good about recognizing, again, since Heather's over there and she's the numbers queen, she can see if Sally's secretary is calling the service desk, 15 times a month, and it's always about Google or it's always about Word or whatever, that's when they're probably going to nudge us and go, hey. There are also times where when we've met with departments or people, and I've said, when you are ready to move your stuff off of your desktop to Google Drive, I want you to submit a ticket and say, I want somebody to come see me. And we will come sit with you, or we will Skype or Google Meet with you. We will work with you. Anytime anybody puts in a ticket where they have anything advanced, like on spreadsheets, for example, you can bet I am going to contact Iris and say, when can you help me with working with this person? Because I might be in over my head. She is clearly the Excel queen on our team. And so I might try to work with somebody, but if I can tell it's going to be really advanced math or formula stuff, I'm going to pull her in. In fact, we just had a phone call last Friday, and we had a ticket, and it was beyond what the service desk could assist them with. And we spent quite a bit of time last Friday afternoon working with somebody. There was another situation that I had to call Tamika in. There are certain things that Tamika's good at, seeing things from a different perspective, considering the alternative side, anything Outlook PowerPointy, graphic-y. Tamika's really good at that. And there have been things I'm like, okay, am I missing something, or do you have a perspective to add? So we use the Skype or Google Meet a lot. And in case, again, you did not meet me at the conference, I'm very, very attached to my iPad. I'm very attached to my iPad. And I am not anywhere on campus without it. I will FaceTime, I will Skype, I will Google Meet, I will do whatever I've got to do to, I've sat at somebody's desk with my iPad pulled up, and we're Skyping or FaceTiming with Iris or Tamika to get it, or somebody else even, to answer a question or to figure out where we need to go next.
That's great. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions. Heather and I have been chatting.
Great.
I believe that I speak for everyone on this webinar when I say thank you for sharing your expertise. Corin, Iris, and Tamika, I mean, you were a highlight for me at the conference last fall. I'm so grateful that you shared your experience with us today. And thank you
for
very
having
much.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, lots of
Thank
big
you.
thank yous with many exclamation points. So
Yes, and again, if you come to Texas, Denton is just 30, 45 minutes north of Dallas. And so if you come to see Denton and Dallas campus where Tamika is, I do know all the good places to eat in Denton and Dallas, and probably in between. Iris, again, is in Houston, and we do know the good places to eat there. And if you're of the shopping persuasion, I can help you shop too.
I would love to go shopping with you for the day, Corin. That would be awesome. All right, well, that's
and
it
we're
for
all
us.
on LinkedIn, and you've got our emails, so y'all know how to find us.
Fantastic. All right, well, everybody have a great afternoon and evening, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye-bye.